Okay, welcome to Beyond Sustainability, how to build regenerative eco startups. And we are Solve Earth, and our partners are Cosmos, Impact Founders, Evolute 6, and the Positive Impact community. So what is Solve Earth? Solve Earth, in a nutshell, is a community of aspiring eco-entrepreneurs. And I'm going to tell you a bit more about that, but first we'll just go through the schedule. So a bit of housekeeping, please keep your mics muted for the time being. The presentation section will last about 20 minutes. Then at the end, we'll have plenty of time, 10 minutes or so for a Q&A in the Zoom. During the presentation, if you're inspired and you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box and we'll answer them in the Q&A section after the presentation is finished. Then right at the end, we're going to have an after party in our virtual studio, which is going to be in an exciting new platform called Cosmos. And we'll give you directions on how to join that at the end, right at the end of the Zoom presentation. Great, so let's carry on. So why was Solve Earth created? Well, we saw three main drivers in the environment. One of them is that it's very clear that all products and services, virtually all products and services, are currently unsustainable, environmentally unsustainable, and they need to be replaced with sustainable products and services and innovative alternatives. The second one is that we're seeing an increase in wealth and power concentrated in very few hands. And this means that a lot of people are left out of the decision-making processes that affect their lives. They don't have the wealth and power sharing that's required in order to fully take part in society. So there's a real need for new distributions of wealth and power that would enable a far more inclusive society and one where everyone takes part in the decisions that affect them. The third one is, of course, that we live in an age of crazily fast technology development. Technology is developing at exponential pace and is, of course, getting faster with the advent of biotech and AI and other very advanced technologies. And the thing about technology is it's an accelerator. So technology simply accelerates the system that we're in. So if we're creating unsustainable products and services, like in point number one, and we're concentrating wealth and power, then on the whole, technology tends to accelerate that unsustainable system. So there's a need to use these advanced technologies and use them to build a sustainable system, which is really exciting and is a very positive flip side of some of the negative drivers that we're seeing in the environment. So these are the things that inspired us to create Solve Earth as a community. And to bring that together, to make it clear, our mission is to inspire and support an army of eco-entrepreneurs to build eco-startup companies that are founded on a new regenerative blueprint in order to secure a truly sustainable society that will thrive for millennia. So before we go into the details of how we do that exactly, I'm going to go into a bit of a background on myself and my co-founder, Daniil. So my name is Gareth. My original career is in healthcare. And I went to business school after several years working in healthcare because I really wanted to get involved in projects that would have a positive impact on society. So I ended up working in health tech startups for a few years. And then back in 2017, I was driving to work one day and I felt this ball of fire in my chest. And I was like, I know what this is. Because you see, I've had quite a strong interest in sustainability for more than a decade. And I was always sort of toing and froing between, am I going to focus my energies in the sector that I understand best? Or am I going to go into this other sector that I feel really passionate about, environmental sustainability? I can see that this is going to be one of the biggest challenges and biggest opportunities that humanity's ever faced. And so I was having this real tension for a few years. And so I was driving to work in 2017. I felt this fireball in my chest and I was like, wow, what's this? This is me. This is something inside of me telling me that I need to make the transition into sustainability. So I did. And about 6 months later, I founded Solve Earth as a community. And here we are today after lots of exciting new developments, building eco hackathons and building the foundations for our new community that just relaunched this year. And I'll hand you over to my co-founder, Daniil, to tell you a bit more about himself.
Hello, thanks, Gary. Hey guys, I'm Daniil, co-founder here at Solvearth, and I guess I come from a bit of a mixed background of computer science, sustainable development, biologies, ecologies, a mixture of everything. And why I'm here, I guess, after my university, I was searching for impactful, meaningful things to do. And for a while I was developing web skills. I was trying to upskill myself, find something I could niche into, and was working on sustainability projects, helping them develop their organizations or businesses. And was obviously looking for work, but as we all know, degrees don't mean work anymore. And the more I dug, the more, even in the sustainability work, the more I couldn't find something that really related to what I wanted to do and what I saw in sustainability. Because for me, sustainability was a lot more than just simply environment and energy. I know it's a huge part of it, but for me, I really saw that sustainability lacked the way we organize ourselves as human beings, the way we work, the way we distribute everything. And that was kind of what caught my attention. And I saw an out of this ad that was out of date by 5 months about entrepreneurship, sustainability, multi-stakeholder environments. And it was the first thing I'd ever seen. And it was Gareth looking for some help, and yeah, messaged them saying, this is what I can do, this is how I can help. And yeah, I've been on this entrepreneurial journey. And the entrepreneurial journey has really helped me discover this concept of meaningful work. You know, for me, there was all these jobs that were sustainability based, partially greenwashed, partially bureaucratic in the sense that you come in as an individual, but you have very little power to actually change things, shape things. There were structures in place that is very difficult to uproot, and hence why I found myself going into the startup space, because the startup space seemed like this, you know, no rules zone. It was all, you know, all rules go, a space where you can really push and change the status quo per se, and also just a really creative and energetic environment. And while I was developing skills previously, helping small individual businesses, I found this real big passion for really putting people's potential to work. That was a really big thing for me, and linking it to sustainability and seeing what we can do when we're together rather than trying to do things separately is kind of the reason why I'm here. And what I wanted didn't exist, so I'm simply here to build what I think the world needs. And yeah, that's how I'm still here. And yeah, I think Gareth's going to talk to you a little bit more about the startups. Thanks.
Brilliant, thanks, Daniil. So we have a really strong belief at Solvearth that profit is not evil. So money is just a tool to achieve your aims. And I'll illustrate a bit about why we think that's the case. Everyone can play their part in sustainability. It's clear that everyone has a role to play, and that there is no one actor in the system that is going to solve the environmental sustainability problem. But we can see that governments and legal systems have been far too slow to respond. And you can see, especially in the last year or so, how slow and chaotic they respond to particularly challenging crises. We know that consumer behavior change can really change things. It can change markets, and it can change the way companies deal with things, and it can push governments to change. But it's clear it's never going to be enough. Behavior change is not going to make us a sustainable society. The math doesn't add up. What we need is consumer behavior change to push the system so that the system can change and the fundamental foundations of society changes. But again, changing your behavior, recycling a bit more, that's not going to solve the problem on a big scale. Non-profits do some really great work, but we find that they come up against a ceiling. They find it very difficult to scale an impact and generate really high impact. There are very few non-profits that reach the kind of scale of Google or Facebook, for example. And again, charities, another great sector of society doing amazing work. The problem is they also find it difficult to scale. And the other thing is they find it very difficult to drive the economy forward because they're not generating value. They're not a key driver in today's profit-driven capitalist economy. So in today's society, for-profit startups have the huge advantage that they enable speed and scale and size of positive impact, and they drive the economy. So when we build sustainable eco startups, we're not only developing a profit, we're developing a positive impact, and that's really important. And people say to me, a couple of years ago, people would say to me, oh, but environmental companies, they don't make any money because they're all about saving the planet. They're usually really expensive. It's difficult to create an environmental company that actually makes money. And just to give you one example to counter that, a company called Allbirds that you might be familiar with, they brand themselves as the world's most comfortable shoes, but they're also made of all natural sustainable materials. So they're an eco startup. There's no fossils and there's no plastic in their shoes. They were founded in 2015 by a Kiwi footballer who went to business school. And 3 years later, they were valued at unicorn status, which means they were worth over $1 billion. Quite an incredible story for a company that simply makes sneakers. So amazing, huge potential in this arena. Now, if we take a step back and we go, okay, so where are the opportunity areas for eco startups and sustainability companies? There are really, if we simplify our environmental problems, there are three major parts of the environmental problem. The first one is that we're using damaging energy sources, which is mainly in the form of fossil fuels that are causing climate change and air pollution. The second big problem is that we have a linear materials economy. And what that means is that we extract materials from the earth or from nature, we use them, and then we throw them away. Sure, there's some recycling, which is great. And that's the beginning of part of the solution. And problem number three is that we're directly damaging nature and we're losing biodiversity as a result of human activities, and also as a result of point number one and point number two. So the really exciting thing is that these three big problem areas map directly to three huge solution areas. So in the damaging energy sources, we can move to a society that is powered by 100% renewable energy. This is perfectly possible, and there's lots of pioneering work being done by different groups around the world. One such is Professor Mark Jacobson at Stanford University, who has published a roadmap for 149 countries to move to 100% renewable energy across all sectors by 2050. So it's absolutely possible. The second big solution is to take that linear waste economy that we have and turn it into a circular economy. What that means is that all waste streams are reused to make secondary products, or waste streams are fed back into nature and become part of the natural cycles that have been on Earth for millennia. And this is really exciting as well. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing some great work in this area. It's perfectly possible for us to transition to a 100% circular economy, which would be a near zero waste economy. And the third big solution is that we can build businesses that protect and restore nature. And that enables us to protect and enhance biodiversity. Sounds impossible. How do we get all of these things together? I'm going to go into that and tell you a bit more about it. How do we turbocharge eco startups? So we know that we can make eco startups using the current capitalist system. And that's great, and that buys us time because we move towards sustainability, which is that we're using resources more efficiently, more effectively. But there's a problem in using the current system as it is, and incentives are not aligned. And what I mean by that in a simple sense is that money, people, and nature are not aligned. At the moment, we are primarily in a global economy that is destroying nature in order to generate money and financial wealth. And of course, as I said before, people are not given a fair share in the wealth and power that's generated as a result of this destructive system. And that's not the best way to build a sustainable and regenerative society. And the solution that seems to be touted is we need a massive change in our laws and legal system. As long as we can change the law, for example, we make destruction of nature illegal, make ecocide a crime, and we apply lots of patches to say you're not allowed to pollute the air, we must gradually transition to more renewable energy, more and more laws and more regulations. And that's fine, and that works, and that's great, and we will need that. But how do we turbocharge this? Can we get this moving much quicker? Because as we said before, governments and legal systems do not move quickly. Well, what if, as well as using for-profit startups to connect into the existing machinery of the economy, we also take the changes in the law and regulation inside the startups that we're building, because we have control over those startups. What if those startups can also be a vehicle for the new economic system that we need? So instead of waiting for the law to change, we change the engines on the plane mid-flight and we start building the system that we want to see today. We don't wait for the outside world to change. What if we put this new economic blueprint right inside our eco startups? What would that blueprint have to have in it? Well, it would need to be a new company legal foundation, and it would need to enable wealth and power sharing for all to bring a voice to the table for everyone that's involved. It would need to have very strong protections of nature. It would need to have individual development so that everyone can develop to their best possible self. And it would need to have dynamic team governance or self-organized teams that are working with full autonomy and full power over their own work. How do we do that? What does that look like? Well, I'm here to tell you that Solve Earth and all the eco startups that will be formed in Solve Earth as part of our ecosystem will be built on a new blueprint that already exists. It's called the Fair Shares Commons. And this is a legal incorporation that allows power and wealth to be shared amongst all primary stakeholders, including customers, and has very strong protections for nature embedded into the DNA, the fabric of the company. So the behavior of the company completely changes as opposed to what a normal private company would behave like. This is kind of like a cooperative, if some of you are familiar with cooperatives, but it's like a cooperative on steroids. Every part of it is enhanced, and it still has the ability of a full for-profit private company to grow into scale, which is the key difference between this and other cooperatives. So this is really exciting, and we've already done that. Solve Earth is already built on this new legal blueprint. Now, once we start to build eco startups based on the Fair Shares Commons, on that new regenerative blueprint, we start to build up a pool of companies in the middle of this diagram. We start to build a pool of regenerative companies. And by regenerative, I mean that these companies are building a financial wealth. They're building human wealth, social wealth, because everyone in it is being enhanced from their personal point of view, their personal development's being taken care of. And it's also developing a natural profit. Nature is being protected and most likely restored as a result of the economic activity that these companies undertake. So it's a triple win across money, people, and nature is what we mean by regeneration. Now, once you have a certain number of these companies operating the next few years, and they start to do really well, because with this blueprint, it works, and it works extremely well. So those companies will start to work and accelerate and scale fast. And we have the beginnings of a regenerative economy starting to build, and the companies start to cooperate with each other. Once we get to a certain percentage of business activity around the world that is based on this new regenerative blueprint or others like it, we move into a regenerative society, which is a really amazing place to be, because regenerative companies are, as like I said, they're regenerating nature, they're regenerating people, and they're building economic wealth at the same time. So we move into a phase of having super adaptive companies that are very highly adaptive, and we have a regenerative society. And what that means is that really big challenges that come along, these companies can act and adapt very fast because the regenerative blueprint allows them to react at lightning speed and to change their business models and to take care of everyone as well as building a profit. So we can completely change the way the global economy functions, starting here today, right now, in a small pocket in our community in the Solve Earth ecosystem. Now, let's take a step back, take a little breath. Okay, this all sounds great. It's a bit mind-blowing. It's very ambitious. It's going to take a long time. 50 years is a long time. Where do we start today? How do we take the first baby steps to getting there? Well, if you're curious about starting your first eco startup business, you're curious about sustainability, entrepreneurship, and innovation, maybe you're not sure where to start, maybe you're completely new to this whole scene, you just want to dip your toes in, start as an explorer, you're not ready to found a company, because I appreciate that's a really big step. Well, come in, you're welcome. You can come in and start as an explorer. And everyone is welcome. And we're not just looking to build high-tech, highly scalable tech companies and tech startups. Solve Earth is suitable for all kinds of companies. So you can build a one-person lifestyle business. You could start a sustainable coffee shop. You could start a thrifting store, a fashion swapping service. It can be very small scale. It doesn't need to be, I'm going to build a $10 billion company. It could just be a neighborhood company, and it is perfectly possible to build that within the Solve Earth community and to build it on the Fair Shares Commons blueprint. So everyone's welcome, and we start right at the beginning. And just to tie all that back in, to bring it back to the mission statement, to give you a clearer picture of how these elements fit together. Our mission is to inspire and support an army of eco-entrepreneurs who are going to come in right at the beginning, take those first baby steps, get comfortable, learn about sustainability, innovation. Eventually, when they're ready, build eco startup companies, the same way that we would build any other company, except we're going to build it on this new regenerative blueprint. And so after you start building your company, you then take on the Fair Shares Commons regenerative blueprint. And this thing helps you to accelerate and move much quicker and more effectively than you ever thought was possible. But it's taking the tools of building a normal startup company and then adding this regenerative enhancement, the turbocharger. And that's what will enable us to secure a truly sustainable society that will thrive for millennia. So what have we done before? As I said, we run some eco hackathon events in the past, and we've had two major cohorts. One was an experimental virtual internship back in last year during the pandemic. We ran a virtual internship, and we had teams working on various projects, some of which included a retrofit company called Future Proofers, which is looking to convert existing housing into zero carbon housing powered by renewable energy. How do we do that? How do we insulate and ventilate houses, power them up with renewable energy? Another project was looking at sustainable tourism, regenerative tourism actually, where the concept was based on staycations where people would actually go and instead of just immersing themselves in nature and appreciating it, they would actually go in and restore it. So plant trees and help to restore ecosystems. That was called Rewild and Replenish. Another one was And Breathe for sustainable face masks. And we even had a video game called Acopolis, which is a simple text sort of adventure that you can actually go on our website and play, where you play some characters in the near future fighting to secure a regenerative future utopian world versus the forces of dystopia that are trying to take our world backwards. And that was a really fun project. If you get a chance, you can go and play that on our website. And then as part of our new community cohort that launched in May this year, there was also Better Blueprints, which is a startup concept that gives architects some of the tools that they need to move towards a 100% wasteless construction industry, which is the circular economy solution that we talked about earlier. So that's really cool, really exciting as well. That would be a tool to help architects use far more sustainable materials and eventually transition to zero waste. So that's some of the previous projects we've helped to build, create, ideate, and get moving. So how are we going to actually build this army of eco-entrepreneurs? Well, first of all, we are a virtual first community, which means everything is online. We're physical second. So what that means is once we get critical mass in any particular geographic location, we will then set up physical communities, but we're virtual first, which means we're highly flexible and we can operate anywhere. And the Fair Shares Commons, by the way, is compatible with several countries around the EU, as well as the UK and the US and overseas. So we have the capability to start in multiple countries simultaneously. The aim is to make the community self-replicating and self-governing. And what that means is there are no gurus. The community is going to be designed by you guys, by the community members. And you're going to govern it, design it, build it, and you're going to help us to figure out how we replicate the community and help it to spread and get as many people involved as possible. We firmly believe in the concept of emergence, which is rather than a top-down, we tell you how we're going to build this, it's going to be more the community will figure out how we're going to build the community itself. We have some fundamental pieces that we know are going to help a self-replicating community to emerge. It needs to be highly social, it needs to be visual, it needs to be engaging and interactive. And discussion and chat is great. That's what gets things moving. That's what gets people sparked up and inspired to take action. But at the end of the day, you have to take action. So one of our key principles in the community is that we take action. We don't just discuss. We go out and we run real world experiments and we get real world data on our early ideas to see what works and what doesn't work. And then if something doesn't work, you take the learning, you take it on board and you build something better and you get it back out there. So taking action is really key. And that's what differentiates us from one of the many discussion forums that I'm sure if any of you are into sustainability entrepreneurship, people go in and they chat, they talk, they trade ideas. This is all good stuff. But how do we move beyond the discussion and get things into the real world? How do we start building stuff? How do we start making this happen? So action is a really big part of it. And to facilitate the community and building the community, we already have our own dedicated community platform. It has its own mobile app, so you can access it on the go, you can access it anywhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through it actually, because we have it open here. So we'll just switch over to, here we go. This is the community page right here. That's the home page. Move into the topics. These are some of the topics that people have created in the past, and some of the early business ideas slot into these topics. So if you're interested in face masks, pop in there, chat to people that are interested in the same thing. There's a 100% wasteless construction industry topic here, which was from one of the topics created by the last cohort in May. So you can go and create and design these topics yourself and get people involved. This is where the heart of the action happens, the discussion and the actions that we discussed before. Any events that are running are also inside the community platform, so you don't need to remember where they are. You can go in and you can actually join the event directly from the community platform, which is great. We also have a bunch of little mini courses that you can go in and you can learn stuff. So if you want to know more about the regenerative blueprint that we use, the Fair Shares Commons, you can actually go in and you can watch a little video that was created by one of the chief architects of the Fair Shares Commons, who's a fascinating man called Graham Boyd, and he is in one of our partner companies, which is called Evolute 6. So you can go in there. We have loads of little educational modules, and you can go and learn a bit more stuff. If you miss a workshop, We also record parts of the workshop in the form of educational videos. So these are really short videos. For example, in this one, we have a 5-minute session on the minimum viable product, which was recorded in one of our recent workshops that we did last week or the week before. So you can go in and you can get a really quick 5-minute recap on what we discussed and what we learned. So this is all great stuff. And finally, we also have our own dedicated virtual studio that you can connect to 24/7. And we're going to actually take you through that after the Q&A session at the end. That's where we're going to do the after party. But you can join that directly here from the community and jump in anytime you want. And that's a great place to go and chat to other community members, because it's a really cool kind of interactive video chat forum. But we'll show you a bit more about what that looks like later. Okay, so back to the presentation. So how do we actually join the community? How do you want to join the community? If you want to dip your toes in, become an explorer, come and join us. Or if you're ready to build an eco startup, come in. And the way we're going to do it is we are starting our second community cohort of 2021. And it starts on the 26th of July. That's a Monday at 7 p.m. It's going to last for 4 weeks. And the commitment is just one night a week. So we do a workshop every Monday night for 3 hours. And this is all on Zoom and or in our virtual studio, which again, we'll show you later on. And that's where you're going to do the majority of the work and the majority of your interaction with the community members. So it's quite a light touch. It's not too onerous to do one night a week in a 3-hour session. The cost is just £10 a month from membership to join the community. And if you think about it, you know, that's the same as a Spotify subscription, a Netflix subscription, or even an underwear subscription called On That Ass, which a certain co-founder is a subscriber to. And, you know, Spotify and Netflix are great, but really what you're doing there is you're just consuming content and entertainment. You come and join us, this could potentially change your entire career. This could change the direction of your life. So, you know, we think it's great value for money. What does your £10 a month get you? It gives you access to the community platform that I just took you through. You get the weekly social workshop in our virtual studio, as we discussed before. We get mentorship and support from our partner companies who will come in and provide us with some extra services. And most importantly, you get to create ideas and explore problems with passionate individuals, people that are on the same journey that you are. And this is really important because this is where the magic happens. It's in meeting your peers and meeting people that want to do the same thing. So the onboarding course is entirely complimentary. It's part of your membership subscription of £10 a month. It's 4-week training, and you come in and you learn by doing. So we'll take you through from the very early stages, the very first baby steps, and you will develop your early eco startup business idea. You do this in a safe space and you're not committed to actually build that business. You can build an idea, you can run with it at the end of the 4 weeks, or you can say, you know what, I don't really like this. I'm kind of interested. I thought it was going to be in plastics, but you know what, I'm kind of more interested in fast fashion. I think I really want to develop a fast fashion business idea, but I want to just experiment and see what that looks like. So you're not committed to build a business. You can come in and explore and take your time and do what you need to do at your own pace. You'll find out what it means to be involved in sustainability innovation. And of course, we're bringing in lots of tools that we use to experience the future of collaborative work. There's lots of really cool online tools, and our virtual studio is just one example of that. But we also practice what we preach. So in a regenerative society, an inclusive power and wealth sharing society, the way that work is done is very different. We operate in self-managing teams. We're going to experience a little bit about that the more you get involved in the community. And that will go mostly beyond the onboarding course. That's more advanced concept stuff that you'll unlock and access after the onboarding course is completed. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Daniil and he'll tell you if there's anything he wants to add about the social side of the community and how that works.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess that my favorite thing that I've discovered with all of these workshops when we're bringing folk in, and it's this aspect of the multidisciplinarity where, you know, it's almost like the start of a bad joke. It's like, you know, an architect and an ecologist and a painter get together in a room, you know, and it's just fascinating the conversations that happen. And people coming in from different viewpoints, from different lenses, and folk have found it really valuable, you know. And it's, I guess, it's the concept of the safe space that's quite nice, you know. It's quite daunting. It's often difficult to know who to speak to, who to ask for really simple things if you're developing these projects on your own. And just having that safe space to just openly discuss things. There's no such thing as stupid answers. There's no such thing as stupid questions. And yeah, I guess the more involved you get, the more you get connected to this ecosystem of organizations. You know, we're Solve Earth, but there is this huge plethora of other organizations also working on, you know, this a similar concept. And the more you dig into it, even though you might be working just with one or two people closely on a project, you suddenly realize that you're part of something much bigger. And, you know, we've got a few partners, but we're not the only ones working on this. It's fascinating how many, you know, high hitters are coming together and being like, this stuff needs to change and quick. What was going on in our organizations is just shocking. This needs to change. So, you know, once you start coming in and developing, yeah, you become part of a much bigger movement, but it's also like this low-key hidden movement. You know, it's in the bushes, ready to pounce and emerge whenever the time is right. But yeah, it's just been really fun. It's just genuinely really fun and exciting watching people develop and create their ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, we love it. Thanks, Daniel. It's so amazing when ideas come together and they start to emerge, and people get really excited once they start making progress. It starts with baby steps, then it builds into something much bigger, and it's just amazing to see that process unfold. And I see we've got a comment from Matthias, which is perfectly timed. He says, I love the idea. How do I join the community? You read my mind. Let's go. So this is how you join, Matthias. If you go to this link, and I think Daniel's going to pop it into the chat box, you can pay a £10 deposit, and that deposit will save your spot in the next cohort that starts on the 26th of July. There are limited spaces simply because the bandwidth to take care of more than 25 people at a time isn't quite there. And it's good to have quite a close-knit group, not too big a group. So there's only 25 spaces. You can pay your £10 deposit to save that spot. And the great thing is you get your £10 deposit back if you complete the 4-week onboarding. And a number of people did just that in our last onboarding, and they had their deposit refunded from the cohort that started in May. So we are true to our words. We will pay you the deposit back. And yeah, that's the presentation. So I'm going to stop recording because I want to give people a chance to jump in if they've got any questions.